Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of my Feelings Over Tea podcast. I am your host, Dr. NaKaisha Toward Banks, and today we're diving into a powerful and reflective topic that's at the heart of our society: connecting communities. Have you ever wondered how strong, supportive communities are built and maintained? Or how our mental health plays an integral role in creating safe, thriving environments for us all? Well, you're in the right place. In this episode today, we're going to explore the benefits of connecting communities, what it takes to build and sustain them, and why mental health is a cornerstone of community well being. I have an amazing guest joining me today. She's here to share her story with the highs and lows and how she overcame. Shabnam Naz Ansari worked in the corporate sector for over 25 years in a senior management position. Now she is the founder and the CEO of a Canadian federally registered charity, the Volunteer Well. Her journey to creating the volunteer well is rooted in a deeply personal and devastating life experience, or multiple ones. When at her most vulnerable and unsupported by her community, she had to make a decision for the sake of her safety and survival. So today, together, we're going to uncover how empathy, heart led leadership, and a sense of unity can bring us closer and help us overcome the challenges we face. So grab yourself a cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started with today's episode. I'm so excited for you all to be here. So we're going to get started right here and right now.
Welcome to my Feelings Over Tea podcast, where experts and everyday people will sip tea and spill the tea about all things life and mental health related. So grab yourself a cup of tea and join me, your host, Dr. NaKaisha Toward Banks, for hot topics, helping you to cut through the muck of life and live your life well in my Feelings Over Tea podcast, right here and right now.
All right, so welcome everyone to today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I am excited to have Shabnam Naz here joining me. She, again, is the founder of the Volunteer Well. And Shabnam Naz, I am honored to have you on today's show.
Thank you, Dr. NaKaisha. It's my honor. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me here.
Yes, absolutely. I am looking forward to this discussion and just bringing more light to community and unity and your story of leadership, your story of how you, when people say, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. I want to hear about your lemonade because there is such a beautiful story behind your journey. So I want to know, how do we leverage our shared capacities to build stronger and more connected communities? Let's start there.
It's a beautiful question because what's happening with us as human society, whenever we interact with each other, we interact with based on our background, based on what differentiates us rather than what unites us. Whereas our unity is our strength. That is where we can really maximize our potential. One of the mandate of the volunteer well is to connect us based on our shared values, to focus on the human values of love, compassion, care, and justice for everyone. That is our mandate. And to really, if you look all around us in the human society in terms of our norms and traditions and cultures and religions, we have been focusing and interacting with each other based on our ego dominated mindsets, based on our background or our race or religion or gender or all of these things. Whereas what's really the fundamental, the power where it is for us as humanity is based on our unity. All came from the same source. We are all going to the same source. There's the same source in you, same source in me. It is our shared values of
Yeah.
unity that is at the heart of everything that we do.
Yeah. You know, the one thing that I appreciate is you naming that you said that there's this ego kind of dominated place within society. And you then kind of came back and pulled that in and kind of laced it in this warm blanket of unity and shared values. And when I think about unity and shared values, that really does bring me into community and thinking about how, when we, think about or leverage community, there really is this sense of shared values, right? When you think about the volunteer well and how it came to be, what does community mean to you when you think about the volunteer well?
So when I think about the volunteer well, the community means everyone who is living and working around
Mm,
you. On a broader scale, it is us as humanity at large, but on a very minute individual level, it is talking about everyone who is living or working around us, whether it is in the spirit of us offering help and support to others, or even in terms of asking for help and support to others. So instead of approaching any nonprofit or charity for offering my volunteer services in terms of my help and skills, I offer it to my next door neighbor. Similarly,
yeah.
instead of asking for help from any local middleman, I ask for help from my next door neighbor. And the idea is for us to be connected, to feel less isolated, because there's a strength in collectiveness, right?
Yeah.
There's a strength in our human potential as one.
Yeah. I think that it's beautiful to really kind of pull community back into us being one. And it's really important, as we're looking at the state of our countries and even the world, and just knowing how important community is. I talk a lot about belonging and isolation, and how that, the two kind of go hand in hand, as far as when we see maybe an isolated community, how we really want to work to open that up so that people feel a sense of connection and a sense of belonging, right? And the impact that isolation can have on one's mental health. And so I think the beauty of what you're talking about right now is this, like, the essence of community, and how that helps us as individuals to feel connected to one another, right? Can you share, Shabnam Naz, a personal story about a peak or valley in your life and how it shaped your connection to investing in your own personal mental health?
Yes, and you made some very strong points in terms of the concept of isolation leading to mental health challenges. One of the things that COVID has really taught
Yeah.
us in terms of the impact isolation can have on mental health challenges, and the repercussions of that era is still going on. And it's something that we realized perhaps as human society for the first time in our lives, the impact of isolation on mental health
Yes.
in terms of all our programs, be it in terms of our programs for seniors or for any other marginalized community. It is focused on social exercises. It's focused on connection. It's focused on reducing the impact of isolation, because with connection comes power. With connection comes the individual ability to really address these challenges by themselves. As long
Yeah.
as we as human society are social animals, we can address anything and everything under the sun, as long as we are empowered, and connection is power. In terms of answering your second question, the reason why I am a social entrepreneur, the reason why I have this life purpose of empowering individuals, strengthening families, connecting communities, and uniting humanity is based on my own life story. And in order
Yeah.
to really give you a peek into that life story, I'll take you 25 years back. And at that point of
Mm.
time, I was senior vice president, the second largest bank of in my home country, really up there in my career progression.
Sure.
Happily married from the outside, connected to three children, two girls and a boy. Eldest was 8 year old at the time. But on the background of it, I was going through a 13-year long abusive marriage.
Mm.
And when I say abusive marriage, especially living in a culture and a norm and a society which does not look at the concept of divorce in favorable
Mm.
manner, I had to continue with that 13-year long abusive marriage in spite of the depression that I was going through, in spite of the isolation and the torture and everything. And then I went into a 3-year long legal battle in the court, completely isolated. I was alone. I was exhausted,
Yeah.
depressed, and isolated. And it was because of this that after the 3-year legal battle in the court, when I finally got the divorce and he applied for the custody of the children through the court, I was at my weakest, Dr. NaKaisha.
Yeah.
I didn't have the strength in me to go through another court case battle. So I went to the court and handed over the custody of my children with my own hands and left the country as a rebel, because I had entered into a complete breakdown phase. Call it as me entering and really falling into the depths of darkness when it comes to that
Sure. Yeah.
breakdown phase. It was a phase of rebelliousness against the fellow countrymen and women, against
Mm.
the norms and traditions, against religion, against everything that
Yeah.
I grew up with. And after the 5 year period, I started reading my holy book. And at that point of time, I entered into another phase, which was filled with curiosity and research
Mm.
and study. And I used to listen to podcasts and finish 3 books in 1 week. And what I realized at the end of that research and crazy period, I would say, was two key facts. And those two key facts is that we tend to really make life so complicated because of obviously the ego dominated mindsets that we are living with. But life is really, really simple. It's just these two key
Mm.
principles. And the two key principles are that whatever we are given, be it in terms of our wealth or money or resources, even our bodies, we're not given as owners. We are
Mm.
given as caretakers, as trustees. It is to be spent for the benefit of others. Therefore, the concept of radical generosity is at the heart of everything that I do. The
Mm.
second is that people tend to divide and exclude and focus on what we have, rather than who we are at its most authentic self. Whereas we are all the same. We came from the
Yes.
same, we are
Yes.
going to the same
Yeah.
source, we have the same source in us. So unity is another key, simple aspect. So I kept on, with respect to my children, kept on fighting for the custody, got them reunited with me after 8 years. My eldest is
Mm.
now,
Wow.
my younger one is 25. I have
Yeah.
got a 24, 22-year-old son and a 24-year-old bonus daughter from my current marriage. And we have a baby child of the family, a 7-year-old girl. So, in terms of my life, there have been many ups and downs, but
Sure.
from all of that, I got my life purpose. And my life purpose is to connect communities so that no one feels isolated
Mm.
and no mother has to go through what I went through.
Yeah. Such a beautiful story that you share with so many peaks and valleys as you describe it. And I don't know that we can even just grasp the depth of what you shared and what that experience has been like. And, for anyone that's listening that's gone through or going through something even remotely close as what Shabnam Naz has shared with us, I think that it's so important to just hear, your strength that you have shared in just overcoming such a difficult, just, kind of disconnecting, if you will, of your life as you knew it, having to flee your country and relocate elsewhere to essentially start a whole new life. But then sharing, just this, one of the things that you said is there's a connection comes power. And I know that when you disconnect and you are leaving that, there has to be this connection to other people and things. And one of those things that I heard was just you connecting into your faith, right? That helped you to navigate this. Maybe share what other forms of community did you connect with in this life transition that you went through?
So one of the strength and the connection that I can say was a group at that point of time, art of living, and they are into meditation and yoga and breathing techniques. So when I was going through all of that, they were my only strength. I did the basic course, and then I did the advanced course, and then I incorporated those sort of rituals into my day-to-day life. And if I were to pinpoint the strongest sort of support and foundation on which I was standing at that point of time when I was all alone, it would be that. It would be that foundation. But also in terms of my ability to really incorporate that into my life. So when I got, in fact, when I made the decision to go through the divorce at that point of time, I was a different person altogether. I was
Sure.
completely docile, submissive, uh,
Yeah.
just just like any person who has.
Yeah.
So I had this long hair, Dr. NaKaisha. It was like really, really long. I went to the parlor which was closest to my house, and I got them really short. And I said to myself, really talking to me in mirror, and I said to myself, this is a new you, and you got this. And even today, I have this daily ritual. I have
Yeah.
this daily routine where I talk to myself because I know there's no power out there which is stronger than my own self for my own.
Mm. I love that. I absolutely love that. One of the things that I share with people when I'm either counseling or, doing some consulting is determining what their daily rituals are, right? And what do they do for their own personal self care or disconnect from the day, right? I often call it a nervous system reset. How do you reset your nervous system? And I love that saying that just like we shut our computers down from time to time, we ourselves need these, moments where we're able to just shut everything down and just be, right? You know, as you're sharing more about your story and how you are connecting in with community and what it does for you, the one thing that I thought of is there's a quote that says, you don't realize how strong you truly are until strong is all you have to be.
What a beautiful quote. Seriously, what a beautiful quote. And it's so well said and rightly placed. So it's so beautiful. And also in terms of the strength that all of us has. When I handed over the custody of my children to my husband, that image in the courtroom remains my biggest regret.
Right.
Feeling vulnerable, feeling weak, But if I were to look at that particular image or that particular event, I would consider I underestimated my strength.
Wow.
It's not that I didn't have the strength.
For sure.
It's that I didn't know I had that. So it's just that realization that even at that point of time, I had that strength. I
Yes.
was underestimating myself, and
Mm,
it's partly because of the societal culture and norms that
yes.
we grew up with, and especially from where I belong. It's your husband name with your name that is
Yes.
giving you strength. Otherwise, you
Mm,
don't have any. So this is the type of culture that most of us belong to, but just really realizing that inner power, realizing that inner strength is profound.
yes. And I think that you raise an amazing point as you talk about culture and, speaking as another woman in culture, and we talk about cultural norms and the part that they play in how we as people navigate, our lives, Are there things that we don't do or we're afraid to do because of the cultural norms that exist around us, right? Or that we have grown up under and we're afraid to go against. And so, again, I think I just kind of take a pause for people to think about as myself and Shabnam Naz are having this conversation. Are there things that you're not doing? Are you not operating in your fullest self because of these cultural norms that have you bound, right? And it's such a difficult place to be. I mean, I know that I could speak for myself personally that I've been in that space before, and I know what it's like not to feel like I can't move beyond something because of a norm that's been set. But I think you said it so beautifully that when you recognize the power that you do have and you're able to move beyond that barrier, it's such a beautiful opening into this new phase of life, right? That we wouldn't be able to see or live if we didn't kind of push beyond those norms. So thank you for highlighting that. That's amazing.
You're most welcome, Dr. Nakasha. And one of the things that I really wanted to highlight now that we are talking about societal norms is the true concept of radical generosity. So societal norms have sort of really penetrated into our society through our ego-dominated mindsets. And one of the things is that it gives our identity linked with either our possessions or people's perception. I am what people think of. I am what I have. And it's because of this that when you talk about the concept of generosity, it's only focused on giving. It's never focused on the receiving part of it. So
Sure.
asking for help and support is as important, if not more important, than the giving. But since societal norms have attached the feelings of shames and hesitation and weakness and vulnerability with the receiving portion of generosity, it is
Yeah,
so difficult for women, especially high achieving women,
for
to
sure.
really ask for help and support.
Yes.
Even my best friends at this point of time, they say me, they tell me, why did you not ask us for help?
Uh,
You have would have felt less alone, and you would have been connected, and you would
mm,
also have given us an opportunity for us to be there for you.
sure. Yeah.
So these are there are many societal norms that need to be shattered when we work as our true authentic selves, as
Hmm.
who we really are deep down inside. We shatter these norms one by one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much there, right? This whole concept of asking for help, especially as women, in the Black community, we talk about, superwoman syndrome and us wearing like this cape and thinking that we have to be all and do it, without asking for help, because asking for help feels like we're weak and that we can't handle, all of the things that are present when, as you state, in all actuality, it's our inability to recognize that there is more strength in asking for help, right? To say, I can't do it all. And I'm smart enough to recognize that, right? Myself 20 years ago was probably that. 10 years ago probably was that. But as you grow and you learn, and I think as we make it more of a comfortable conversation, and a conversation that says it's okay to ask for help, right? That asking for help becomes a norm. It doesn't present the problems that it has presented for so many of us, because now it's normal to say, hey, can I get your help? Hey, can you support me with this? Hey, I'm going through a difficult time. Do you have 8 minutes? Me and a friend of mine implemented this. Do you have 8 minutes to talk? Right. And she knows that if I send that, or if she sends that to me, that it means that I kind of need some support right now, and whatever that may be. And so I think that making these things more normalized in our communities helps us to build more foundational and strong communities that allow us all to thrive in a better way. So as we're talking about this particular component, and you're thinking about the volunteer well, what does heart-led leadership mean to you? And then how has it served you? And how can leaders incorporate this approach to support their communities? So, as we're thinking about asking for help, the one thing that I think about is leaders, right? That if you're the leader of something, you can't do it all, see it all, be it all. So, what does that heart-led leadership mean to you? Let's just start there.
Yes. Beautiful question. I'll come to that question. I just want to make one point in terms of we as women. And it's not just about the Black community, it's about all over the world. When it
Sure.
comes to women, they're taken as caregivers. It's so difficult for us to switch the narrative to really ask or
Yes.
receivers in
Yeah.
that fact, which is, I agree, which is where we need to change the narrative. In terms of answering your question, what does heart-led leadership mean, and how is it different than the traditional concept of leaders? So when you talk about the concept of traditional leadership skills, it is based on our ego dominated sort of mindset. So when you
Yeah.
talk about the ego dominated mindset, it would answer the question, who are you, based on one of the following ways. So it would answer, I am what I have. So I
Hmm.
am based on the title or the possessions or the responsibility that I have as a leader. I am what I do based on my job duties, based on whatever I have done, whatever my accomplishments are. I
Yeah.
am what people think of me, which is based on my leadership is as perfect as people perception of me
Hmm.
as a perfect leader. So it's because of that traditional concept of leadership requirement that puts so much heavy burden on us as leaders, and it leads to us burn down, because what it does is it makes us almost like a perfect leader who has this title, who is carrying out his or her responsibility in really perfect manner, who
Yeah.
is in a certain strength and accountability and credibility, and it just blocks our passage to become more authentic as our true selves, whereas
Yes.
that is where our true power is. Unless and
Yes.
until I am pending, unless and until I am vulnerable, I cannot connect. I cannot connect to my superiors. I cannot connect to my colleagues. I cannot connect to my team unless and until I say that I can make mistakes, and that's fine. This is where I made a mistake. Let's
Yes.
see how we can fix it as a
Hmm.
team. Because
Hmm.
I am just like you. There's no difference, right?
Sure. Yes.
So when you talk about heart-led leadership, it comes from us as being our most authentic, vulnerable selves, because
Hmm.
our identity is not that ego-dominated norms of the society of a
Yeah.
perfect leader. Our identity is our true authentic self. I know
Yeah.
what I am deep down, right? And
Yes.
what I am deep down is exactly the same as you, right? So I'm
Yes.
not different.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because I have this responsibility does not mean that I am a level above than you are. No,
Yeah.
no. So it just breaks barriers. It connects people. It makes them more vulnerable. And vulnerability is strength, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I think many people have difficulty with is vulnerability. And as you talk about that, vulnerability can be very scary. A lot of people are just like, "Ooh, I don't really want to do that," or I'm, kind of hesitating to do that thing because it's going to require me to be vulnerable. And it's like, yes, but, as we kind of talked about before, Shabnam Naz, beyond that, kind of wall or barrier of vulnerability, once you get right beyond that, there again is a beautiful opening not only for yourself but maybe for others that you're involved with or communicating with or connecting with, right? There is a level of vulnerability as you're talking about leadership. There's this level of vulnerability that it takes to be a good leader, I feel, right?
yes, yes, very,
Yeah.
very, very, very true. And also in terms of being a team player,
Yes.
when you're asking for help, when you're asking for views and feedbacks and team contribution, you need to be your most authentic self.
Yes.
Otherwise, you create divide, right? And
Yeah.
that's a recipe for failure, right?
Yes.
Leading to burnout. You're becoming control free. You're trying to be perfect as possible. But
Yeah.
there's no possibility of us as humans being perfect, right? We're as
For
humans. We make
sure.
mistakes all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. And every day we're growing, every day we're learning, every day we're expanding. But there's a level of vulnerability that comes with that where we're allowing ourselves to be in that space. I once had this boss who told me, this has been many, many years ago, and they told me, I don't want to be the smartest one at the table. And I recognize that I'm not the smartest one at the table. And I just thought that was so profound. And I sat with that, for some time to really just like meditate on what that meant. And it was so big because essentially what they were saying is that, yes, while I have this position, there are other people that I'm bringing in, he said, who are smarter than me in this particular area or this area, and they know how to do something where either I can learn from them and or I can just allow them to go and do their job. And I just thought that that was so beautiful, that this leader is saying, "Hey, I don't know it all. I don't need to know it all. I just need you to know your part and this person to know their part in order for us as a collective unit to work well together."
Exactly. We enhance the strength of the team when we
Yeah.
really bring out the best in each and every member of the team. And as a
Yeah.
leader, that's our job, right? That's
Yeah.
so profound. That's so beautiful. Very.
Yeah. So as we're, just thinking about the beauty of this whole concept of heart-led leadership, and we've talked about overcoming adversity and how you've navigated your own personal journey. I want to just take a minute to reflect on the journey as a whole. And, the journey of life is often or can often be described as beautiful. I guess I'll say it that way. How do you find beauty in the ups and downs of life and your journey? And then what would you share with someone else who may be just navigating a tough space right now?
Yes, a beautiful question. Wow. Okay, so in terms of my journey, when I was going through all that I have gone through at that point of time, I used to ask the question, why me, right? That's the
Mm,
problem with us as humans, right? When something good
yes.
happens to us, we never ask that question.
Yes.
We ask that question only when
Right.
we are going, right? Why me? And
Right.
then it was only later that I was able to connect the dots to this profound life purpose that I
Mm,
found through all of that. Right?
yeah.
It is something that I have found larger than life purpose for myself through all of that. So if I were to make a choice to go through that again in order to get this, I would do that. So having said that, in terms of answering your question with reference to my life journey, the first response of any of us, I think, as humans, is asking the question, why me? And then really wanting to go into that victim's journey. Um,
Yeah.
and the idea is to flip the script and then ask the question, what is this situation really teaching me? What
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
learn from this? How can I turn it around to take this as a challenge for growth and success? How can I take
Yes.
it around as a learning that I can turn it around to live a hero's journey where I can impact
Mm,
more lives through
love
this?
that. I
So
love
if I
that.
look at every point of time, this is something that each one of us would do, right? We would look
Yes.
at a situation whenever we would go through a challenge. The first thought that would come to our mind is to compel us to go into a victim's journey. The
Mm,
idea is to flip the script, is to transform each thought at every point of time, and then
mhm,
ask the question, what have I learned? What is
mhm.
this situation teaching me? What can I do?
Yes.
How can I impact lives? And I think that would be my advice for anyone going through anything, to really look at any situation and then see, can I turn this challenge into a personal growth and
Yeah.
success, not just for myself but for others, right? Can I do that?
Yeah. Yes. I love that so much. Just I think what I took from what you shared is really being aware of what we're holding and removing that victim's mindset to a victor's mindset or a victory mindset, right? That we can all at some point claim to be the victim of something. And I am not discrediting anything hard that people have gone through because, yes, we want to validate the tough things that people have gone through. And I think what you're sharing is that as we go through those hard things, we also want to embrace and acknowledge the fact that our mindset can really help us to overcome what we've dealt with to kind of push beyond these barriers and make it to that next part of our journey, right?
Yes. And I think a part of the solution is to really look at and observe each and every thought and look at, is it a product of the societal norms or is it my true authentic self? And really separate the two. So even right now, if something happens and there's a thought that crops up, right? And that thought
Sure.
is based on a limiting belief. And that limiting belief, I've named it, that thought, as Sana, that Sana is saying that. And
Mm-hmm.
and then I transfer it, that this is me, who's Shabnam, who's saying, responding to
Yes.
that. So for
Yes.
instance, whatever thought comes to your mind, example could be, it's not in your domain. You cannot do that. You're not good enough. You're not capable enough. The
Mm.
idea is to really separate yourself from that thought and say that this is Sana saying, but this is not the
Yes.
reality. I am strong. I'm powerful. I can do whatever I set my mind on, right?
Yeah.
So it's a daily sort of routine that we need to incorporate into our lives to really create our everyday. So right from the morning up until the bedtime, There
Yeah.
has to be routines, there has to be rituals when you're talking to yourself, true authentic
Mhm.
selves, making sure that your true authentic self is the driver behind the energy that you have, right? Rather
Yeah.
than the societal or the ego dominated self.
Yeah. What I hear there is be intentional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
exactly.
be intentional about your time and be intentional about addressing those limiting beliefs and those negative thoughts that tend to creep up because we all have it or have had it at some point in our life. And I think that when we are intentional, we have the opportunity to really see what's before us and know what to do about it. I mean, we may not exactly have the answer, but like we talked about earlier, we can ask for help, right? Or we can say, I've been feeling really sluggish. Maybe I need to get on a better morning or night routine, or maybe I need to do some breathing during the day or something, right? But being intentional just allows us to be more aware of what's happening in us and around us.
Yes. Yes. And again, being in the now, right? Don't think
Yes.
about the past. Don't think about the future.
Yes.
Be in the now. Center yourself.
Yes.
Got this.
Yes.
I think you got
I
this.
love that. And I got this. I say that all the time. I love just saying, that's an encouragement, a daily encouragement for myself. Every day I get up, it's like, okay, this is what I have to face today. I got this. And then it's like a let's go. So let's get out there and do it. So, Shabnam Naz, what an amazing, amazing conversation we've had today. I know that there may be people that want to learn more about the Volunteer Well. They may want to connect with you or just learn more about your work and what you're doing. So please share how people can connect with you and any like websites or things that people can visit to learn more.
Yes, yes, and likewise, Dr. NaKaisha, it was amazing to be here. Your questions were thought provoking. They were profound. Thank you so much for
For sure.
asking those questions and really for the engagement. Really love it. Love every moment. In terms of people can visit us at volunteer-well.org. That is the website link. And if you go into Meet the Founder, and the link would be volunteer-well.org/founder. That is where you can connect with me. You can know more about me. In terms of the platform, there is a generosity hub. So you can register yourself as either a giver or a receiver, depending upon whatever you want to do. But do make sure that you are on the platform. At times, we think that we cannot offer much, but even if you have a listening ear that you can become an accompany buddy for a senior, you can do so much,
Mm.
right? So come on the website, explore different options, get in touch with me, and I would love to engage with you. I'm in the space of partnership and collaborations.
Nice.
So there's so many things that we can all do together, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for just sharing your story and your wisdom with the audience today and those that are listening. It's just amazing to hear how you've overcome and navigated just some of the toughest parts of your journey, but also being able to share and hopefully, people can hear the smiles and, just the warmth that you are generating from this conversation. So again, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Really, it has
Yes.
been a pleasure and an honor to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And folks, that wraps up today's episode. We have had an enlightening discussion about the power of connecting communities, the importance of mental health, and the role that we all play in building a supportive and thriving environment. We've learned that empathy and heart led leadership are at the core of uniting humanity. By sharing our stories and embracing vulnerability, which we talked about, and supporting one another, we can overcome the peaks and valleys of life together. And one of the important things that we talked about today is asking for help. So remember that our mental health is a vital component in this life's journey, and taking care of ourselves means that we can better care for our communities. I want to thank you for joining us on today's episode and for being a part of this incredible conversation. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll continue to explore topics that bring us closer and help us grow as individuals and as community. I want to leave you with this famous quote by Coretta Scott King. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. So please make sure to like and share this podcast and this episode with others. Until next time, take care, stay connected, and keep shining your light. I am your host, Dr. NaKaisha Tolbert Banks. I look forward to you joining me on the next episode of my Feelings Over Tea podcast. Stay connected, everyone. I'm out.